Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Climbing Diaries. This episode will be a full analysis of my last competition, the Italian Championship, held in Torino last October. The rules of the competition are pretty much the same as in the World Cup. So, on the first day we do 2 qualifications, both flash. This means that we are allowed to see the other competitors, and for the first competitors that cannot see anyone climbing before them, there is a video demonstration of the route made by the route setters. You can see the difference from me on the right and the route setter on the left. This is the actual video we had in the isolation, so we could see the video even on YouTube the evening before the competition, so we can study all the moves, all the clippings and all the resting position that we will climb on the next day. So at the beginning I did a slightly different beta from the route setter, but then basically the beta was almost the same. This route was the hardest one of the 2. My starting position in the ranking was last, but there is no reason for this. It is random on the qualification. The starting order is totally random. So I knew everyone who climbed before me had a hard time on this route, and there were only 1 top before me, and then there will be other 2 tops after me, because half of the climber climbed before the second route and half of the climber climbed the first one first. So I was the last one of the first half, and I knew it was very hard, especially in the first part of the route. A lot of climbers fell in this section here on these pinches, because the holes were really dirty. You can see from here how much difference there is between my go on this purple pinch. The pinch was much more cleaner with less chalk. There is a cleaning of the route on the half of the competitors, but since I was almost the last one on the first half, the cleaning of the route was actually after me. And it doesn't change too much often, but sometimes you could change a little, and if the slopers, especially the slopers, are very dirty, it could be a bit more difficult than the ones that are starting before. But actually, if you're starting on the first position, there is a disadvantage that you cannot see the other climbers climb before you. So there is an advantage and a disadvantage for climbing first or last. This section here after the pinches was not so hard. After the rest on the purple pinch I was quite fresh, but then after this crimp I started being pumped, and this section here was a bit more difficult, and I almost fell here going to this black volume. It was probably the hardest one, and here my bib number just flew away. I tried to clip from this position, but it was very hard, so I went to the next clip with my elbow very high. I was quite pumped, but fortunately after this section there was another small rest. I used it a lot because it was quite hard otherwise, and the last part after the rest was okay. So resting here in this position was very important, and without this rest I could probably fall in the next part of the route. That is the last part. I know this gym very well because it's in Torino, and is the city where I'm born and I live for 20 years. And this gym was open in 2008, and since then I climbed quite a lot in this gym until I moved to Arco. So from 2008 to 2016 it was my main lead gym for training. Even if on the last period there were not so hard routes, but I knew very well all the walls and all the structures of the wall. And this was the first qualification route. After the first route, the second one was quite a bit easier, because I knew, because all the other climbers climbed before me the first route, and fortunately in the male route there was not a crack like in the female route you can see on the left. And the second route was on the right wall, and this time was a bit more slabby, but the holes were actually a bit better. So I was starting second to last on this route again, so there were few tops, maybe more tops in this route for sure. It was a bit easier, but I was quite worried because it was a bit more slabby, and you probably know it is not my style. But actually I started quite chilled, because I knew I could top it, so I climbed well anyway. As you can see on my shirt, I'm in the police team, the police climbing team, and some of you asked me on Instagram and other social why I'm in the police team, and this is actually how it works in Italy to be a professional athlete. So in climbing, but in all the other sports, all the other Olympic and non-Olympic sports, if you want to be a professional athlete, you have to join one of these sportive group. The main group in Italy for climbing is the police team. Now it is a big team. There is me, my sister Claudia, there is Laura Rogora, Camilla Moroni, Michael Picorruaz, Philip Schenk, and the new members of the team, Gianluca Zodda and Davide Colombo. We are 8 climbers now that are professional climber, because we are paid from the police team to climb and to compete until our career is over, and then we can stay in the police and work as a police normal police officer. But this is how it works in Italy and some other countries. In different countries actually is the federation that pays the athletes to compete, but in Italy there is the police team and the army that pays the athlete to be climbers and to be athletes until the end of their career. The video demonstration here was made by Alberto Trivero, the chief route setter of this competition, and we actually have similar styles. He is a bit more static. He's known to be very static and very strong on crimps and really small edges and crimps. But in this competition actually there were a lot of slopers and a lot of dynamics move too, so he set this competition a bit differently from his usual style, and I liked a lot the route setting. It was perfect. Both the qualification routes were well setted, because the first one was actually quite hard, the second one was easier, but it's okay, so everyone could climb at least half of the route. And it was well setted, even the semi-final and the final. In the Italian Championship in Italy can compete only 40 men and 40 women, more or less, because now there is a restricted number due to COVID and to the increase of the demand of participation of the Italian Cup and Italian Championship. And then so 40 men competed in the qualification, and just 26 proceeded to the semi-final, and then the first 10 climbers, 10 men and 10 women, would go to the final. Here in this position I found a very good rest where I could release my hands. It is a bit uncommon in a competition, and was very useful to rest very well for the next part of the route. But actually the next part of the route was not so hard. I could climb it anyway quite smoothly. The crimps were quite good, and the only hard move I could notice from watching the others was going to the top. I saw someone jumping with the left hand, someone jumping with the right hand, and I decided to be more sure to jump with both hands, but you will see soon. This part was not so hard, the holds were quite good. I could even rest a bit on this sloper before the next quick throw. And the next move was okay. I even clipped from this position, I clipped from the next position. This was quite good, and the next one was very bad. So the best possibility to go to the top was to jump with the right hand or with the left hand. So I was unsure on with which hand I would like to go, so I jumped with both hands to be really sure to grab the top. And this was the end of the qualification round. With the two tops I was in first position together with Joe Placci, and the next day there was the semi-final on Sunday. So the semi-final was in the next day. The difference between the qualifications and the semi-final and final is that the semi-final and final are on site. So we couldn't see anyone climbing before us. We were in isolation and we stayed there for the whole competition until our turn. So I was starting last. This means I had to wait 25 people before me climbing on this route, and then I started climbing. We just did an observation of 6 minutes, everyone together. So we watched with the other competitors, try to share betas, try to understand what the route setter want us to do on this route. And this one was quite clear. There was no many points where we had some doubts, except for the filter, that the cracks that we will see very soon. This part was actually not so hard until this clip, and then from here clipping the next quick throw was really hard. This pinch with my left hand was very bad, and some of the climbers had to skip the clip and went to clip the previous quick throw from this red crimp, and it was quite hard because it was really far. And from here it starts the crux of the route. We had some doubts on how we would climb this part. In isolation we confronted us with the other climbers. Some climbers thought to go on the left horn. You can see it is very good, there is a lot of chalk, but before the first climber there was not a lot of chalk, so we were not sure if it was a good hand or if it was just a foothold. Before climbing I decided that I want to use it just as foothold, but then I touched the first black sloper and I understood that it was really bad. So I went to the horn, tried to heel hook and match the horn, and it was quite good as a hand. And then I realized there were two holes behind the wall, but these holes actually were not part of the route. They were part of another route of the gym, so it was a mistake from the route setter that left those holes. But the rules in the competition say that you can use every holes on the wall. There are no restriction unless there is a black tape on the wall, but in this case everything was allowed, so I used them. I was the only one to use them, and it was a smart tactic that no one noticed it, and actually it was quite smart because it was the hardest crux of the route. So in this way I used my experience on a climbing competition to skip the crux of the route, and it was totally fine, and nobody did it, but it was allowed. So actually this time I passed this crux not with the strength, not with the power, but just with the experience. You can see there is black tape on the left part of the wall, but just from that point until the end. So in the lower part of the route he was allowed to use it. From here the route was not over, the crux was over, but there were some hard part on the necks, especially in this 2-finger pocket releasing the foot, and then there was a quite far lock off to the right, but it was quite good. And here there is a section on a black sloper. First I clipped the quick through, and then there is this black sloper and some pinches, and from here starts another quite hard part that made a lot of climber that passed the first crux fall in this part. Here I started to be a bit tired, but I keep climbing on this section, and I could find a small rest here, turning my left hand as an undercling, and it was very important to rest a bit in this part before the very last part of the route. I could even clip this quick throw. It was very important because then the holds were not so good. I took this red circle, but it was not so good, so I went straight to the 2-finger pocket, heel hook, and went on the red crimp. This one was quite good. I could go to the next one and clip before, and then the next move include a right heel hook. It was not so easy, I almost fell here, and on the next move. Here I was a lot pumped, and I fought until the next hold. This was a very bad sloper, very bad. I couldn't use it, so I decided to take the small foothold below the hold. And in this part was quite a bit better, so I could clip, but I was totally pumped. I could take the last crimp, put my foot really high and jump on the top, but it was not enough to grab it. But this was worth a first position in the semi-final, so I qualified for the final route that was on that evening on the left wall. The final route was on the main wall of the climbing gym, and my favorite wall actually. And as 2 years ago, it was on the same wall, and it is the most overhanging, so I like it a lot. And it doesn't seem too complicated from the observation. We understood probably everything, and it was quite pumpy. There were not a lot of cracks. It was just an endurance route, as I like, and so this made me comfortable to start with no pressure. Actually, this second pinch here was quite hard. I couldn't find a really good position to clip. I had to trust, and I was almost slipping. But then the next hold, the next edge was good, and again a heel hook and a sloper that actually was not that bad as it seemed. From here there was this small roof, easy to pass, nothing strange here. And actually from the observation it seemed a bit harder than it was, so I could rest a bit and take my time. And this move here seemed really far from the observation. We all thought that it was like almost a jump, but then it was quite easy, so we did some mistake during the observation. This crimp here was not the best, it was a bit slopey, but then nothing special because I could rest. I knew this route would be very long, so before starting I set a timer, a chrono, because we have just 6 minutes to climb the route. So if the route is very long, it is easy to end the time. So I had a watch on my harness, and during the rest in the upper part I sometimes check it to see how much time I had left, and to see if I have to climb faster or I can take my time. This part here was actually not that easy. I had to be precise with the heel hook, and this was a bit sloppy, but then the next one, handling, was quite good. A heel hook on the left again, and a good crimp. The next two holes I expected them a bit worse, but then they were actually quite good. So I decided to take my time and rest here on this hole with my right hand and pinch with the left hand. On the Italian Championship I always a bit nervous because I won it 7 times before this competition, and actually competing in the Italian Championship means that I have a lot to lose, because if I win, then everybody thinks I just did my job, and if I lose, or if I arrive second or third, even a podium, that is a good result, it means a lose. It means that I did not win, and people and everybody expect that I win, because I won the World Cup and I won several competitions during this year. So everybody was, including me, was expecting to win this competition that could seem easier because there are no competitors from other countries, but sometimes it's harder for the mind, for the pressure, because there is no second place, no third place. There is the victory or just losing everything. But the other years I was a bit more nervous. This time I was a bit more relaxed, maybe because it was a good year for me, so even if I failed in this competition was not a problem, or because I won the World Cup, and so not winning the Italian Championship just means that I'm tired maybe from the season. So actually my mind was in a good state. Here you can see a yellow cross, and this sometimes happens in competition. It means that this is the last hole where you can clip this next quick throw, and the other competitors from 4th position until the 8th fell here on this volume, and it was actually a cracks that made a lot of climbers fall here. But then after this there was a good rest with the heel on this good hold, and I checked a few times the time, because I knew I took my time. I climbed quite slow until here, so I couldn't rest for very long. You can see I'm watching the chrono on the left of my harness sometimes, and I could have rest more, but I noticed that I had just 1 minute left, and I had a few holes to climb more, so I decided to go anyway, even if I wasn't fully rested. And the next part was quite hard. I had to do this mantle with my left hand, put my foot really high, and clip this long quitter that was the last one of the route. And then these two sloper actually were a bit better than expected, so I could take both of them quite well. And the next one I checked how it was, and was quite bad. I could put my right foot really high immediately, and this was crucial for the next part. I turn my right hand and take the last crimp on this volume, and then I jump to the top and grab it, and this was the only top of the final, and with this top I could win the competition and win my 8th lead Italian Championship.
Prima posizione Stefano Ghisolfi.
Again, thanks for watching. Subscribe on my channel if you like the video, and see you on the next Climbing Diaries.